I need a new house, can you cosign? My sister texted. I answered, keep dreaming. A few minutes later, my dad replied in big bold letters. Refuse and you're cut off from family events. That night, I called the Hi Reddit throwaway account for obvious reasons. I never thought I'd be posting here, but I need to get this off my chest and honestly, you guys might appreciate the justice that unfolded. Some background, I'm Sarah, 32F, and I've always been the responsible one in my family. Good grades, stable job as a financial advisor, bought my own house at 28, never asked my parents for money after college. My younger sister Jessica, 29F, is the complete opposite. She's had maybe 6 jobs in the past 5 years, constantly switching careers because she deserves better, and has never lived anywhere for more than 18 months without getting evicted or having some drama with roommates. Despite all this, Jessica has always been my dad Robert's golden child. Mom passed away when I was 24, and ever since then, Dad has spoiled Jessica rotten while expecting me to be the mature one who doesn't need help. When Jessica wanted to go back to school for the 3rd time to study social media marketing, Dad paid her tuition. When she crashed her car because she was texting and driving, Dad bought her a new one. When she racked up $8,000 in credit card debt buying clothes and eating out constantly, Dad paid it off without even making her promise to change her spending habits. Meanwhile, when I asked Dad to co-sign a small business loan 3 years ago to expand my financial planning practice, he said I needed to prove myself first, and that successful people don't need help. The hypocrisy was staggering, but I kept my mouth shut and got the loan through other means. My business is thriving now, by the way. So anyway, last month I get this text from Jessica at 11 p.m. on a Tuesday. Hey sis. I found the perfect house and I need to move fast. It's only $380,000, and I already put in an offer but I need a cosigner for the mortgage. Can you help me out? I promise I'm good for it this time. I literally laughed out loud. Jessica has never had more than $2,000 in her bank account at once in her entire adult life. She's currently working part-time at a boutique making maybe $30,000 a year, if she's lucky. The idea of her affording a $380,000 house was absolutely insane. I texted back, keep dreaming. Maybe it was harsh, but I was so tired of her financial irresponsibility and the way our family enables it. I figured that would be the end of it, but boy was I wrong. About 20 minutes later, my phone buzzed with a text from Dad. It was in all caps, which he only uses when he's really angry. Sarah Marie Thompson. Your sister told me what happened. If you don't co-sign that mortgage, you're cut off from all family events. No more Christmas, Thanksgiving, birthdays, nothing. Your choice. I stared at that message for about 10 minutes, my hands literally shaking with anger. This was the final straw. 28 years of being the responsible daughter, the one who never caused problems, who took care of herself, who visited every Sunday and remembered every birthday and holiday. And this was how he treated me? An ultimatum over my irresponsible sister's latest financial disaster waiting to happen? That night, I called the one person I knew could help me figure out what to do, my Uncle Mike, Dad's older brother. Uncle Mike is a retired bank executive, and he's always been the voice of reason in our family. He's also the one who controls the family trust that Grandpa Thompson set up before he died. Uncle Mike, I said when he picked up, I need to ask you about something, and I need you to be completely honest with me. I told him everything. About Jessica's history, about the house, about Dad's ultimatum. Uncle Mike was quiet for a long time after I finished. Sarah, he finally said, I've been waiting for this conversation for 3 years. What do you mean? Your grandfather specifically wrote into the trust that if Robert ever played favorites with his children or used family relationships as leverage for financial gain, the trust could be dissolved and redistributed. He was very concerned about keeping the family together and fair treatment of all grandchildren. My jaw dropped. I had no idea Grandpa had put something like that in the trust. What does that mean exactly? Well, the trust currently pays for your father's mortgage, car payments, and provides him with about $60,000 a year in supplemental income. If I determine he's violated the conditions, that all stops immediately. The remaining money would be split between you and Jessica directly. I had no idea Dad was getting that much from the trust. No wonder he could afford to keep bailing Jessica out while claiming he couldn't help me with my business loan. He was literally living off family money while pretending to be self-made. Uncle Mike, Dad just threatened to cut me off from the family because I won't co-sign a mortgage for a house Jessica clearly can't afford. Isn't that exactly what Grandpa was trying to prevent? It absolutely is. And Sarah, there's something else you should know. Your father has been taking money from Jessica's portion of the trust for the past 2 years, claiming it's for loans to help her, but there's no paperwork, no repayment plan, nothing. He's stolen about $45,000 from her inheritance. My blood went cold. Does Jessica know? I don't think so. And honestly, I've been letting it slide because I thought maybe he was actually helping her learn responsibility. But it's clear that's not happening. What can we do? Well, I'm the trustee, so I have full authority to make changes. I can cut off your father's access immediately and redistribute everything according to the original terms. But Sarah, this will cause a huge family rift. Are you prepared for that? I thought about Dad's text message, about all the years of favoritism, about how he was stealing from Jessica while threatening to disown me. Uncle Mike, he's the one who chose to blow up the family, not me. Do what you think is right. Give me 24 hours, he said. The next day was a Wednesday, and I was at work when Jessica called me crying. Sarah, something weird is happening. I got a call from Uncle Mike saying I needed to come to his office immediately. And Dad is freaking out. He got some kind of legal notice about the trust and he's been yelling at Mom's picture all morning. Dad talks to Mom's picture when he's really stressed, so I knew Uncle Mike had followed through. Maybe you should go see what Uncle Mike wants, I suggested, trying to keep my voice neutral. 3 hours later, Jessica called me back, but she wasn't crying anymore. She sounded furious. Sarah, did you know Dad has been stealing from my trust fund? What did Uncle Mike tell you? Everything. Dad took $45,000 that was supposed to be mine, and he's been getting $60,000 a year while telling me the family trust barely had any money left. And Uncle Mike said Dad threatened to disown you because you won't co-sign my mortgage? Jessica, I'm sorry you found out this way, but yes, that's exactly what happened. Sarah, I'm so sorry. I had no idea Dad was playing us against each other like this. I thought you were just being mean about the house, but now I understand. There's no way I can afford a $380,000 house, and I was stupid to even ask you to co-sign. This was the most mature thing I'd ever heard Jessica say about money. What did Uncle Mike tell you about the trust? Dad's cut off completely. The remaining money is being split between us 50-50, which comes to about $120,000 each after Uncle Mike deducts what Dad stole from me. And we each get about $2,000 a month going forward. How are you feeling about all this? Honestly? Relieved. I've been so stressed about money for years, and now I understand why Dad kept promising to help me but never actually teaching me how to manage anything myself. He wanted to keep me dependent. That evening, Dad called me. His voice was cold and shaky. I hope you're happy, Sarah. You've destroyed our family over money. Dad, you're the one who threatened to disown me because I wouldn't enable Jessica's financial irresponsibility. You're also the one who's been stealing from her trust fund while lying to both of us about family finances. I never stole anything. That money was loans. Loans with no paperwork, no interest, no repayment schedule, and no expectation of being paid back. That's not a loan, Dad, that's theft. You don't understand the pressure I've been under since your mother died. I understand grief, Dad. What I don't understand is using Mom's death as an excuse to lie, steal, and manipulate your daughters. You could have just been honest about the trust from the beginning. Don't lecture me about honesty when you went behind my back to Uncle Mike. You mean after you threatened to cut me off from the family? Dad, I tried to have a reasonable conversation about Jessica's spending for years. You shut me down every time and told me I was being jealous or unsupportive. You made it clear that her financial problems were more important than our relationship. He hung up on me. The next few days were tense. Dad called Jessica and tried to convince her that I had manipulated Uncle Mike into cutting off his trust access. But Jessica surprised me by standing up to him. Dad, she told him, Sarah has been trying to help me learn about money management for years, and you always told her to mind her own business. Now I find out you were stealing from my inheritance while lecturing her about family loyalty? I'm done with the guilt trips. Meanwhile, Uncle Mike had been busy doing even more investigation. It turns out that when he dug deeper into the trust more thoroughly, he found that Dad had also been charging management fees that weren't authorized and had been using trust money to pay for things that weren't covered, like his annual golf club membership and a boat he bought 2 years ago. But the most shocking discovery came when Uncle Mike decided to look into Dad's personal finances to understand how he could afford to make all these loans to Jessica while claiming to struggle financially himself. Sarah, Uncle Mike told me during our next call, I did some digging, and your father's financial situation is much worse than any of us realized. What do you mean? Well, He's been telling everyone that he's financially stable and able to help Jessica out of his own resources, but he's actually about $40,000 in credit card debt, he's behind on his mortgage, and he's been borrowing against his life insurance policy. So when he was giving Jessica money, he was literally borrowing money to give to her, while stealing from her trust fund to pay his own expenses. It's a shell game, and Jessica was paying for her own bailouts without knowing it. This was so much worse than I had imagined. Dad hadn't been generously helping Jessica out of his own pocket while being tough with me out of principle. He'd been stealing from Jessica to create the appearance that he was financially capable of supporting her, while going into debt to maintain the lifestyle that made him look successful to the family. Uncle Mike, how long has this been going on? Based on the credit card statements I've been able to review, I think it started about 6 months after your mother died. That's when his spending increased dramatically, but his income stayed the same. What kind of spending? Expensive dinners, trips, gifts for Jessica, the boat, golf club membership, a new car every 2 years. He's been living like someone who makes twice what he actually earns. And he's been funding this lifestyle by stealing from Jessica's trust fund. Exactly. And probably hoping that Jessica would never be responsible enough to ask questions about her inheritance, so he could keep taking money indefinitely. This explains so much about Dad's desperate reaction to my refusal to co-sign Jessica's mortgage. It wasn't just about the mortgage itself, it was about his whole house of cards starting to collapse. If Jessica got serious about buying a house, she would start asking questions about down payments and her financial resources. She might start paying attention to her trust fund distributions and notice that they were much smaller than they should be. She might start taking my advice about financial planning and discover the discrepancies. Dad's threat to cut me off from family events wasn't just about punishing me for not co-signing, it was about maintaining control over the family narrative so his financial crimes wouldn't be discovered. Uncle Mike, what happens now that you found all this? Well, your father is legally required to repay everything he's stolen, plus interest. But Sarah, I don't think he can afford to do that. His debt situation is so bad that he's probably going to have to declare bankruptcy. Will Jessica get her money back? Eventually, yes. The trust has insurance that covers theft by trustees, so Jessica won't lose her inheritance permanently. But it's going to take some time to sort everything out. And Dad? Trust theft is a felony, Sarah. I'm trying to handle this within the family, but if he doesn't cooperate fully with repaying what he's stolen, I'll have no choice but to involve law enforcement. That evening, I called Jessica to update her on everything Uncle Mike had discovered. She was quiet for a long time after I finished explaining. Jessica? Are you okay? Sarah, I feel so stupid. All these years, I thought Dad was this generous, supportive father who was helping me because he loved me. But he was actually stealing from me to pay for his own lifestyle, and then giving me just enough to keep me dependent on him. You're not stupid, Jessica. He was deliberately manipulating the situation to keep you from understanding what was really happening. But I should have asked more questions. I should have wondered why he could afford to keep bailing me out while claiming that family finances were tight. I should have been more responsible about understanding my own trust fund. Jessica, you were grieving Mom's death and trying to figure out your life. Dad took advantage of that vulnerability instead of helping you develop independence. That's on him, not on you. I feel like such an idiot. And I'm angry at myself for not listening when you tried to help me learn about money management. You were trying to protect me from exactly this situation. Jessica, the important thing is that you're listening now. We can't change what happened, but we can make sure it doesn't happen again. Sarah, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest with me. Of course. How many times over the years did Dad sabotage your attempts to help me? Like, how many times did I come to you for financial advice, and then run to Dad when you tried to give me conditions or structure? I thought about it. Honestly? Almost every time. But Jessica, I don't blame you for that. Dad was actively undermining me and telling you that my approach was too harsh or controlling. But you kept trying to help me anyway. Because I love you, and I could see that Dad's approach wasn't actually helping you become more independent or financially stable. God, Sarah. I'm so sorry. I spent years thinking you were judgmental about my financial problems, when really you were the only one trying to actually help me solve them. Jessica, let's focus on moving forward. We can't change the past, but we can build a better relationship now. But Jessica wasn't done processing her anger about the situation. Sarah, I want to understand something else. When I asked you to co-sign that mortgage, you said keep dreaming. At the time, I thought you were being mean, But now I'm wondering if you knew something I didn't. What do you mean? Well, I never actually got pre-approved for a mortgage. I saw a house I liked, and the real estate agent said I should talk to a lender, but I thought if I could get you to co-sign, I wouldn't need to worry about the pre-approval process. I wasn't surprised. Jessica, did you do any research about what it takes to qualify for a mortgage on a $380,000 house? Not really. I figured that if I had a co-signer with good credit, it would be fine. But Jessica, even with a co-signer, you'd need to prove that you could afford the monthly payments. On a $380,000 house, you're probably looking at about $2,800 a month including taxes and insurance. Oh. You told me you make about $30,000 a year at the boutique. That's $2,500 a month before taxes. Even if I co-signed, no lender would approve a mortgage where your housing costs are more than your entire gross income. There was a long pause. So I was never going to qualify for that mortgage anyway? Not unless you had a significant increase in income or a much larger down payment. Jessica, I think you got excited about the idea of buying a house and didn't think through the practical realities. And instead of explaining that to me, Dad immediately jumped to threatening you. Right. He turned it into a crisis about family loyalty instead of helping you understand the actual financial requirements of home buying. Because if he had helped me understand the real situation, I might have started asking questions about why I don't have money for a down payment despite having a trust fund that should have been growing for years. Exactly. Jessica was quiet again, and then she said something that surprised me. Sarah, I want to see Dad. What? Why? Because I want to confront him about what he's done. I want him to look me in the eye and explain why he thought it was okay to steal from me while pretending to be my protector. Jessica, I don't think that's a good idea. He's been caught in major financial crimes, and he's probably desperate. People in desperate situations can be unpredictable. I don't care. I've been thinking about this all week, and I realize that I've never actually stood up to him about anything important. I've always just accepted his version of reality and his financial support without asking questions. I need to do this for myself. If you're determined to do this, will you at least let me come with you? Actually, I was hoping you would. I think we should confront him together. The next day, Jessica and I drove to Dad's apartment. I was nervous about how he would react to seeing both of us together, especially since Uncle Mike had served him with legal papers requiring him to repay the stolen money earlier that week. Dad answered the door in a bathrobe, looking like he hadn't slept in days. His apartment was messier than I'd ever seen it, with papers scattered everywhere and empty takeout containers stacked on the coffee table. What do you want? He said when he saw us. We want to talk, Jessica said firmly. Can we come in? He hesitated, but stepped aside to let us in. The apartment smelled stale, and I noticed that several expensive items that used to be displayed prominently were missing. He'd probably already started selling things to raise money. Dad, we know about the trust fund, Jessica said without preamble. We know you've been stealing from my inheritance for years. I didn't steal anything. Those were loans to help you. Dad, stop, Jessica interrupted. Uncle Mike found the fake expense reports. He found the receipts you submitted for my medical expenses and educational expenses that I never received. You've been committing fraud. Dad's face went white, and he sat down heavily on his couch. I was trying to help you, he said weakly. By stealing from me? The family money was just sitting there, and you needed help, and I thought. You thought you could steal from me to pay for your own lifestyle while making me think you were being generous with your own money, Jessica said. Dad, I know about the credit card debt. I know about the mortgage payments you're behind on. I know you've been borrowing money to give me money that you stole from me in the first place. Dad looked at me desperately. Sarah, you have to understand, after your mother died, everything fell apart. I was trying to keep the family together, trying to make sure Jessica felt supported. By lying to both of us and stealing from Jessica? I was going to pay it back. When? Jessica demanded. You've been taking money for 5 years, and the amounts have been getting bigger, not smaller. When exactly were you planning to pay back $95,000 plus interest? I had plans. The boat was supposed to be an investment. Dad, you bought a boat with money you stole from my trust fund and then you tried to justify it by calling it an investment? Jessica's voice was getting louder. What kind of investment is a recreational boat that depreciates the second you take it off the lot? Dad started crying, which I had never seen him do before. I miss your mother so much, he sobbed. I didn't know how to be a good father to both of you without her. I just wanted to make sure Jessica felt loved and supported. So you decided that Sarah should be punished for being responsible, while I should be rewarded for being irresponsible? Jessica asked. Dad, that's not love. That's manipulation. And the financial theft? I added. How does stealing from Jessica show love? I thought if I could just keep everything stable until Jessica found her footing, then I could gradually pay everything back and no one would need to know. Dad, Jessica said, I'm 29 years old. How long were you planning to wait for me to find my footing? Another 5 years? 10 years? Were you just going to keep stealing from my trust fund until there was nothing left? He didn't have an answer for that. Sarah, Uncle Mike told me during a follow-up call, your grandfather specifically stated that the trust money was to be used for basic living expenses and family emergencies only. Your father has been treating it like his personal piggy bank for years. What happens now? Well, he has to pay back about $90,000 in unauthorized expenses, plus the $45,000 he took from Jessica. That's more than he can afford, so he's going to have to sell the boat and probably downsize his living situation significantly. How much trouble is he in legally? Trust theft is a serious crime, but since it's family, I'm giving him the option to repay everything and walk away. If he cooperates, I won't press charges. Dad did not take this news well. He started calling everyone in the extended family, trying to paint me as a greedy daughter who destroyed the family over money. But Uncle Mike had already talked to the important relatives and explained the real situation. Our cousin Amanda, who's always been like a sister to me, called me laughing. Sarah, your dad tried to tell me you were being vindictive about Jessica's house, but then I found out he threatened to disown you and has been embezzling from the trust. Like, what did he expect would happen? The best part was when Dad tried to get sympathy from my Aunt Carol, Mom's sister. Aunt Carol had always suspected something fishy about Dad's finances because he claimed to be struggling but somehow always had money for expensive hobbies. Robert, she told him, you've been lying about money while spending your daughter's inheritance on toys. Don't call me looking for sympathy. About 2 weeks after everything went down, Jessica came to my house for dinner. She looked better than she had in years. Sarah, I need to apologize to you for a lot of things. Jessica, you don't need to. Yes, I do. I've been so irresponsible with money, and instead of listening when you tried to help me, I just got defensive and ran to Dad. I never realized he was sabotaging both of us. How so? Well, every time you try to talk to me about budgeting or saving money, I complained to Dad and he'd tell me you were being controlling and then that I shouldn't let you make me feel bad about my lifestyle. I thought he was protecting me, but really he was keeping me from learning how to take care of myself. And now? Now I'm 29 years old and I literally don't know how to balance a checkbook. It's embarrassing. Would you be willing to help me learn? I almost cried. This was the conversation I'd been hoping to have with Jessica for years. Of course I'll help. But Jessica, you have to promise me you'll be honest about your spending and actually follow through on changes. I promise. And Sarah, I canceled the offer on that house. You were right, there's no way I could afford it. Instead, I'm going to use some of my trust money as a down payment on a small condo that actually fits my budget. What about Dad's ultimatum? Are you worried about being cut off from family events? Jessica laughed bitterly. What family events? Dad's been so busy trying to manage this crisis that he hasn't even mentioned Thanksgiving. Besides, I'm not going to let him use holidays as weapons. If he wants to have a relationship with his daughters, he needs to apologize and change his behavior. Do you think he will? Honestly? Probably not. He's called me 6 times this week trying to convince me that you're the villain in all this. He can't accept that he created this situation himself. She was right. Dad spent the next month calling various family members, trying to get someone to agree that I'd been unreasonable. When that didn't work, he tried a different approach. He started posting on Facebook about ungrateful children and family betrayal. The posts were clearly about me and Jessica, though he didn't mention us by name. It was embarrassing and pathetic. My cousin Mark, who works in social media marketing, screenshot all of Dad's posts before Dad eventually deleted them. Your dad is having a complete meltdown online, Mark told me. Everyone can tell he's talking about you guys, and it's making him look crazy. The final straw came when Dad tried to show up at my office to discuss the situation. My secretary, Jennifer, called me when she saw him in the parking lot. Sarah, your father is here and he looks agitated. Should I call security? No, but please don't leave me alone with him. If he starts yelling, then call security. Dad came into my office and immediately started ranting about how I destroyed the family and stolen his livelihood. His face was red and he was gesturing wildly. Dad, you need to calm down. We can discuss this rationally, but I'm not going to sit here while you scream at me. Rationally? You rationally decided to steal my inheritance. It was never your inheritance, Dad. It was Grandpa's trust, set up with specific conditions that you violated. Uncle Mike didn't steal from you, he enforced the terms of the trust. You poisoned Mike against me. I told Uncle Mike the truth about what happened. You threatened to disown me because I wouldn't co-sign a mortgage for Jessica. That's exactly the kind of favoritism and manipulation that Grandpa wanted to prevent. Your sister needed help. Jessica needed to learn financial responsibility, not get another bailout that would enable her bad habits. And Dad, you were stealing from her trust fund while claiming you were helping her. How was that helping? Those were loans. Show me the paperwork. Show me the repayment schedule. Show me one piece of documentation that proves those were loans and not gifts. He couldn't, because there wasn't any documentation. He'd just been taking money and calling it loans to make himself feel better about stealing from his own daughter. You've always been jealous of Jessica, he said finally. Dad, I have my own house, my own successful business, and my own money. What exactly would I be jealous of? Jessica's string of failed jobs? Her eviction notices? Her inability to keep a checking account balanced? You're jealous that I care about her. No, Dad, I'm hurt that you care about her more than you care about me, and I'm angry that you've been lying and stealing while lecturing me about family loyalty. He stood up abruptly. Fine. You've made your choice. Don't expect to be welcome at family gatherings anymore. Dad, there aren't going to be any family gatherings. Jessica and I are planning our own Thanksgiving this year, and we're inviting the relatives who actually care about honesty and treating people fairly. His face went white. You can't do that. Of course we can. Just because you're our father doesn't mean you get to control our relationships with the rest of the family. That's when he really lost it. He started shouting about how I was a terrible daughter and how Mom would be ashamed of me. Jennifer must have heard the yelling because security showed up within 30 seconds. Sir, you need to leave the premises immediately, the security guard said. This is my daughter. I have a right to talk to her. Not on private property while shouting and causing a disturbance. Let's go. Dad was escorted out of the building, and I haven't heard from him directly since then. That was 6 weeks ago. The aftermath has been interesting. Jessica and I are closer than we've ever been. She's been working with me to learn about budgeting, saving, and responsible spending. She's also started seeing a therapist to work through some of the codependent patterns Dad encouraged. I never realized how much Dad was sabotaging my growth, she told me last week. Every time I tried to be more responsible, he'd swoop in and fix everything before I could learn from my mistakes. And now? Now I'm learning to fix my own mistakes. It's scary, but it feels good to actually be an adult instead of pretending to be one. Jessica did end up buying a condo, but she got something within her actual budget and put down 20% to avoid PMI. She's also been paying me back small amounts of money she borrowed from me over the years, even though I never asked her to. I want to prove to you that I'm serious about changing, she said when she gave me the first repayment. And I want to prove to myself that I can keep my word about money. Uncle Mike has been fantastic through all of this. He's helped both Jessica and me understand our trust distributions and has been transparent about all the financial details Dad tried to hide from us. Your grandfather would be proud of how you handled this, he told me. He always worried that Robert would use money to manipulate people, and he specifically designed the trust to prevent that. You did exactly what needed to be done. As for Dad, he's had to make some major lifestyle changes. He sold his boat and his expensive car and moved to a smaller apartment. He's also had to get a part-time job to supplement his reduced income. I heard through Aunt Carol that he's been complaining bitterly about having to work at his age, but honestly, he's only 58 and in good health. Plenty of people work well into their 70s by choice or necessity. Some relatives have tried to convince Jessica and me to make peace with Dad for the sake of family harmony, but we've been clear about our conditions. He needs to acknowledge what he did wrong, make genuine amends, and demonstrate that he's changed his behavior. We're not asking him to grovel, Jessica explained to our great-aunt Margaret. We just need to know that he understands why his actions were harmful and that he won't use threats and manipulation in the future. So far, Dad hasn't shown any willingness to do that. According to Uncle Mike, Dad still insists that he did nothing wrong and that Jessica and I are ungrateful daughters who destroyed the family over greed. The truth is, I'm sadder about losing my father than I expected to be. Despite everything, I love him and I wish things had gone differently. But I'm also relieved not to be walking on eggshells anymore, wondering when the next financial crisis or family drama would explode. Jessica and I hosted Thanksgiving last month, and it was wonderful. Uncle Mike came, along with Aunt Carol and several cousins. We had great food, good conversation, and no one threatened to disown anyone else over money. This is what family gatherings should feel like, Jessica said as we were cleaning up. People actually enjoying each other's company instead of tiptoeing around someone's mood. The cherry on top of this whole situation came 2 weeks ago when Jessica got a promotion at work. She's now a full-time assistant manager at the boutique, with health insurance and a decent salary. More importantly, she's learned enough about budgeting that she immediately calculated how the raise would affect her monthly expenses and savings goals. A year ago, I would have spent this raise before I even got it, she admitted. Now I'm excited about putting the extra money toward my emergency fund. I'm proud of her, and I'm proud of myself for finally standing up to Dad's manipulation. It wasn't easy, and the family consequences have been difficult, but Jessica and I are both better off now. The best part is that our relationship is finally built on mutual respect instead of Dad's twisted family dynamics. We're actual sisters now, not competitors for parental approval. As for Dad, I hope he eventually realizes what he's lost and decides to make genuine changes. The door isn't permanently closed, but it's definitely locked until he's ready to take responsibility for his actions. If anyone reading this is dealing with a similar situation, my advice is this: family relationships built on manipulation and threats aren't actually healthy relationships. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do for everyone involved is to enforce boundaries, even when it's painful. Trust funds exist for a reason, and family money should never be used as a weapon to control people's choices. My grandfather was wise to build in protections against exactly what my father was doing. I don't regret calling Uncle Mike that night, and I don't regret standing up for myself and Jessica. The only thing I regret is that it took me so long to realize what was really happening. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do for your family is to stop enabling destructive behavior, even when that means letting relationships change or end. Jessica and I are planning a quiet Christmas this year, just the two of us and maybe Uncle Mike. We're both looking forward to a holiday season without financial drama, ultimatums, or walking on eggshells. That's probably the best gift we could give ourselves. Update: it's been 3 months since I posted this, and I wanted to update everyone on what's happened since then. Dad has tried several times to reconnect, but not in the way we hoped. He sent Jessica a birthday card with a check for $500 and a note saying "I forgive you for the misunderstanding." Jessica sent the check back with a note explaining that there was no misunderstanding and that his forgiveness wasn't needed since he was the one who had acted inappropriately. He also tried to show up at my house for Christmas, but I didn't answer the door. He left a present on my porch, a book about healing family relationships with several passages highlighted about forgiveness and letting go of grudges. The highlighted sections all focused on what the offended party should do to repair the relationship, with nothing about accountability for the person who caused the harm. Jessica and I had a good laugh about it. Even his apology presents are manipulative, she said. The good news is that both Jessica and I are thriving. She's been promoted again and is now looking at buying a small house within her budget. I've expanded my financial planning practice and hired 2 additional advisors. More importantly, we've both learned to recognize manipulative behavior and set healthy boundaries. It's been liberating. Uncle Mike told us last week that Dad has been pressuring him to restore the trust payments, claiming he's learned his lesson. But when Uncle Mike asked him what lesson that was, Dad said, that family money causes problems and should be distributed more carefully. Not exactly the accountability we were looking for. We're both doing well, our relationship is stronger than ever, and we've built a chosen family with the relatives who respect healthy boundaries. Sometimes the best revenge isn't elaborate, it's just living well and refusing to participate in toxic dynamics. Thanks for all the support, Reddit. This community helped me feel less alone during a really difficult time.